migrants in Custom and Border Patrol holding facilities deserve to be treated with compassion and respect. Unfortunately, due to the misguided policies of the Trump administration, many migrants have found themselves stuck living in inhumane conditions. Earlier this month, I visited one of these facilities in McAllen, Texas, and I was disturbed by what I saw. I'm proud of my colleague, Congressman Raul Ruiz, and the Judiciary Committee and the leadership of Congresswoman Zoe Lofgren for putting together a comprehensive piece of legislation that will alleviate the suffering of some of these migrants. My amendment is very simple. It directs the Department of Homeland Security's Office of Inspector to pay particular attention to whether CBP facilities comply with Department of Homeland Security sexual abuse prevention policies while inspecting detention facilities. Many provisions in DHS standards to prevent, detect, and respond to sexual abuse and assault are very well intentioned. These include requiring sexual abuse prevention training for staff, limiting cross-gender searches, ensuring there are plans in place to respond to sexual violence, and providing survivors of sexual abuse with access to sexual assault nurse examiners. These policies should help reduce the prevalence of sexual violence, enable victims to report abuse, and provide support for survivors after experiencing trauma. But I am concerned that Customs and Border Protection is not meeting DHS own standards. An Office of Inspector General report from 2016 recommended that DHS identify which facilities qualify for routine auditing and ensure that these facilities are audited by July 2018 as required by DHS own policies. Today, nearly 1 year after CBP was supposed to complete these audits, they have not finished the job. If Customs and Border Protection is not taking this basic step of auditing facilities, we cannot be sure they have properly implemented more onerous yet crucial policies. The best plans to prevent sexual violence are worthless if they are not followed. This amendment, which I would like to thank my colleagues Rep. Moore and Cisneros for co-sponsoring, will help provide clarity about whether CPB is taking steps to prevent and respond to sexual violence, and I urge my colleagues to support it. Brave survivors have begun to come forward detailing chilling assaults by Border Protection agents. Some of the survivors are only in their teens. Despite these heartbreaking stories, there's a stunning lack of transparency about sexual abuse at Customs and Border Patrol facilities. According to the agency's most recent report on assessing sexual abuse at holding facilities, in FY 2017, CBP processed more than 534,000 individuals in its holding facilities, and yet the agency itself only received 7 claims of sexual abuse. 10 months after FY 18, CBP has yet to release its report on abuse last year. From my own experience, working on sexual violence prevention on college campuses and in the military, I have learned that the absence of formal complaints of sexual abuse does not reflect the absence of sexual violence, but rather signals a culture that prevents people from reporting violence. According to a Freedom of Information Act request, between January of 2010 and July of 2016, the Department of Homeland Security Office of Inspector General received 624 complaints about sexual abuse at Customs and Border Patrol facilities. Considering this information, CBP's failure to promptly publish its own sexual abuse data and the stories of survivors who have come forward, there is a clear need to improve transparency about sexual abuse at CBP. My amendment, which I was proud to introduce with Representatives Moore and Cisneros, directs the Secretary of Homeland Security, working with the DHS office that typically receives complaints of sexual abuse, to release all complaints of sexual abuse at CBP once per quarter, removing any information that would compromise the anonymity of survivors. This is an amendment that all members should be able to support. Releasing more data in a timely manner will help lawmakers grasp the scope of this problem. Knowing that they are not alone may also encourage other survivors to step forward. I urge my colleagues to support this amendment